When you hear the word frugal, what comes to mind? Maybe tight budgets, extreme couponing, or saying no to things you enjoy. For a lot of people, frugality sounds like deprivation, like cutting back and settling for less. But in segment 1 of Your Money or Your Life, Vicky, Robin, and Joe Dominguez flip that idea completely on its head. They challenge us to stop seeing frugality as a sacrifice and start seeing it for what it really is: a powerful strategy for freedom and fulfillment. The myth: frugality means giving up. We live in a culture of more options, more convenience, more spending, And because of that, many of us are trained to think that spending equals happiness. So when someone suggests spending less, it feels like a threat to our quality of life. But here's the truth that this segment reveals: spending more docently always makes us happier, and spending less docently always means suffering. In fact, thoughtful, intentional frugality often leads to more satisfaction, not less. Frugality is not about saying no to life. It's about saying yes to the things that truly matter. The reality: frugality is freedom at its core. Frugality is simply the practice of getting the most value for your life energy. It's not about being cheap or withholding joy. It's about being conscious, creative, and resourceful. The authors frame it like this: every dollar you spend is a trade-off. You're exchanging your time and energy to earn that money. When you spend mindlessly, you're letting that life energy slip away. But when you spend with intention, you're reclaiming your power. That's where frugality comes in. It's the strategy that helps you keep more of your life energy, avoid lifestyle inflation and debt traps, gain control over your future, align your spending with your values. It's not a restriction, it's a tool for liberation. Frugality versus deprivation. There's a big difference between frugality and deprivation. In this segment, it's careful to make that distinction clear. Deprivation feels like punishment. You're not spending, but you're also not thriving. Frugality, on the other hand, is about smart choices. You spend less, but live more because your resources are being used intentionally. For example, choosing to cook at home might save money and give you more time with family. Buying fewer clothes might mean you love and use what you already have. Canceling unused subscriptions might free up cash for something that actually matters to you. It's not about giving up, it's about replacing excess with purpose. The skill of frugality. Another key insight from this segment: frugality is a skill, not a trait. You don't have to be born frugal. You can learn it, practice it, and improve over time. Just like learning to play an instrument or cook a new dish, it gets easier and more rewarding the more you do it. Frugal people aren't necessarily more disciplined. They've simply learned how to differentiate between needs and wants, find creative solutions to save without sacrificing joy, take pride in resourcefulness rather than consumption, and most importantly, link their spending habits to bigger goals like freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Frugality as a values filter. One of the most empowering ideas in this segment is that frugality can act as a values filter. It forces you to ask, is this purchase aligned with what I actually care about? So you start to spend not to keep up, to build up the life you want. Whether your goal is to travel more, retire early, start a business, or simply reduce stress, frugality becomes the strategy that gets you there faster. Final thought: choose less, live more. Segment 1 of this chapter reminds us that frugality is not about shrinking your life. It's about sharpening it. S, not about saying no to finite. S, about saying yes to freedom. It's not about being cheap. It's not a sacrifice. It's a strategy. Okay? When you rethink frugality through this lens, everything changes. You realize that living well doesn't mean spending more, it means spending better. And that shift in mindset, that's where real wealth begins. Have you ever bought something thinking it would make you feel amazing only to be underwhelmed or even a little regretful afterward? That moment of disappointment is exactly what your money or your life addresses in segment 2. how we reintroduce to one of the book's most eye-opening concepts, the fulfillment curve. This simple graph may change how you think about money forever, because it reveals an uncomfortable but liberating truth. More doesn't always mean better. What is the fulfillment curve? The fulfillment curve is a visual way of showing the relationship between spending money and personal fulfillment. Here's the basic idea. At first, spending increases your quality of life. You buy food, shelter, clothing essentials that support your survival and well-being. As your spending increases, you start adding comforts and pleasures. A cozy couch, meals out, weekend getaways. But eventually, your spending hits a point of diminishing returns. You keep spending, but your fulfillment stops rising, okay? In fact, it may start to fall, okay? This is the curve in action. A rise, a peak, and a slow decline. At the top is your personal point of enough, where your spending maximizes your satisfaction. Beyond that, you enter the zone of too much. The culture of more, the fulfillment curve, feels so revolutionary because it flies in the face of what our culture constantly tells us, that more stuff equals more happiness. We're marketed to 24/7s with the promise that the next purchase, new phone, bigger house, fancier vacation will finally bring the satisfaction we crave. But in reality, once your basic needs are met, more often brings stress, clutter, and debt. You're not spending for joy anymore. You're spending out of habit, comparison, or emotional distraction. Recognizing when you've crossed the line. So, how do you know when you VA past your fulfillment peak and entered the land of less is more? Here are a few signs. You own things you never use. Spend impulsively to soothe boredom, stress, or insecurity. You feel busier, more overwhelmed, or less content even as your income rises. You constantly feel the pressure to upgrade or keep up. In other words, you're spending, but you're not feeling any more fulfilled. Why this concept matters. Understanding the fulfillment curve puts you back in control. It helps you identify your personal enough point. Stop chasing purchases that don't serve you. Align your money with your values. Create room for peace, clarity, and purpose. This segment reminds us that the goal isn't to stop spending to spend with intention. When you know where your curve peaks, you can focus your money on what genuinely brings joy and skip the rest without guilt. How to find your fulfillment peak. The author suggests a few practices to help you discover your enough point. Reflect on recent purchases. What brought lasting joy or value? What didn't? Track your emotions around spending. Are you buying because you need something more to avoid feeling something? Do a less is more experiment. Try a no-spend week or declutter a space. How does it feel to live with less? Journal about your ideal lifestyle. What does enough look like for you? What do you truly value? The more honest you are, the more you'll notice how often you spend out of habit, not desire. The curve isn't about sacrifice, it's about clarity. This isn't a call to become a minimalist monk. It's a call to pay attention. When you know where your fulfillment curve peaks, you make smarter choices. You free up money for what really matters: freedom, creativity, security, or generosity. You create space in your life, physically and emotionally, for more meaningful experiences. You start to understand that true wealth isn't measured by how much you spend, but by how aligned your spending is with your purpose. Final thought. Redefine what more means. Segment 2 invites us to redefine more. Not as more money, more stuff, or more status, but as more peace, more joy, and more alignment. The fulfillment curve shows us that more doesn't always make things better. Sometimes, more makes things worse. But when you find your own sweet spot, you're personal enough, you stop chasing and start living. And that, more than any purchase, is what true financial freedom feels like. What if your bank statement could tell you not just what you spent, but what you valued? That's the question at the heart of segment 3 of Your Money or Your Life. In this part of the book, Vicky, Robin, and Joe Dominguez introduce one of the most transformative concepts in personal is finance. Conscious spending, the practice of intentionally aligning your money with what matters most to you. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" conscious spending asks, "Does this reflect my values?" Conscious spending is a game changer. Most of us spend money without thinking too deeply about it. We buy things out of habit, convenience, stress, boredom, or societal pressure. But rarely do we ask, does this expense bring me closer to the life I want to live? Segment 3 teaches us that money is not just currency, it's your life energy. Every dollar you spend represents time and effort that you traded for that money. So the question becomes, is this expense worth the life I gave to earn it? When you look at spending this way, it becomes clear that true financial well-being isn't just about earning more, it's about spending better. How to practice conscious spending. The goal of this segment isn't to restrict your spending, it's to reveal your priorities. Here's how the book suggests doing it. 1. Track your spending daily. By now, you've likely started tracking every dollar that comes in and goes out. Quits, which creates a clear picture of your financial patterns. Quit. Categorize your spending. Group your expenses into categories like housing, food, transportation, entertainment, etc. But go deeper, use categories that reflect why you spent, not just what you spent on. For example, convenience purchases, emotional spending, spending to impress, value-aligned purchases. 3. Ask the fulfillment questions for each category or expense. Ask yourself, did I receive fulfillment in proportion to the life energy I spent? Is this spending aligned with my values and life goals? Would I be willing to spend this life energy again for the same thing? These questions help separate mindless spending from meaningful spending, spending that reflects you. Conscious spending is deeply personal. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's a latte that feels like a waste to one person might be a soul-satisfying ritual to someone else. The point is not to label expenses as good or bad, but to assess whether they are in alignment with who you are and what you care about. When your spending matches your values, you feel more satisfied and less stressed. You experience fewer regrets or money hangovers. You start to see money as a tool, not a trap. Conscious spending creates space for change. One of the benefits of this practice is that it naturally starts to shift your behavior without guilt or force. You begin to eliminate spending that no longer serves you, redirect money toward what truly enriches your life. Make decisions with more confidence and less conflict, and often you will find that you can live better on less because your spending is laser focused on what actually brings joy, peace, and purpose. Aligning dollars with values equals financial integrity. The authors describe this alignment as financial integrity, when how you spend your money is a direct reflection of your beliefs and goals. It's about becoming congruent, so your financial life and personal life tell the same story. Financial integrity leads to clarity. Clarity leads to power, and power leads to freedom. Final thought, spend like your values matter because they do. Segment 3 of Your Money or Your Life reminds us that every dollar is a vote for the kind of life we're recreating. Conscious spending gives you the chance to vote intentionally for connection, simplicity, creativity, community, health, freedom, or whatever you hold dear. It's not about cutting back, it's about living forward. When you start matching your dollars to your values, you don't just change your finances, change your life. Frugality often gets a bad rap. It's misunderstood as boring, restrictive, or only for people struggling financially. But Your Money or Your Life flips that narrative. In segment 4, we're introduced to creative frugality, a mindset that proves you can spend less and enjoy life more. This isn't about coupon clipping or cutting out everything fun. It's about reimagining the way you meet your needs and desires. It's about doing more with less, not because you have to, but because it's smarter, lighter, and often more fulfilling. What is creative frugality? Creative frugality is the art of meeting your needs in resourceful, joyful, and intentional ways. It's about stretching your dollars not out of desperation, but from a place of curiosity and control. Instead of asking, How can I afford this? You ask. Is there a smarter, more satisfying way to get this? It's not about being cheap, it's about being clever. Why it works? When you practice creative frugality, you start to realize that much of what you buy ice and tea about the item itself, it's about convenience, habit, or social pressure. Creative frugality encourages you to pause and explore alternatives that save money, reduce waste, and often provide deeper satisfaction. It works because it slows down mindless spending and encourages innovation and play. It aligns your habits with your values. It increases gratitude and appreciation for what you already have. Examples of creative frugality. This segment includes practical and inspiring examples that show just how enjoyable frugality can be. Here are a few. 1. Borrow instead of buy. Need a tool, a book, or a one-time item. Check with neighbors, local libraries, or community groups before heading to the store. 2. Repurpose what you own. Get creative with what you already have. Turn glass jars into storage, old t-shirts into rags, or leftovers into entirely new meals. 3. Swap skills or goods. Trade services with friends or neighbors, babysitting for tutoring, lawn care for home-cooked meals. Everyone wins, for find joy in free. Explore parks, community events, hiking trails, or free museum days. Fun doesn't have to come with a price tag. 5. DIY with intention, whether it's making your own bread, sewing a torn shirt, or fixing a leaky faucet. Doing it yourself builds confidence and often creates a better result than buying new. It's frugality as self-expression. One of the most beautiful takeaways from this segment is that frugality is a form of creativity and self-expression. When you stop relying on spending to meet every need, you start solving problems with your imagination. You become more hands-on, more thoughtful, and more in tune with what truly satisfies you. That's a deeply empowering shift, especially in a society that tells you to consume your way to happiness. Avoiding the scarcity trap. Creative frugality is not about scarcity. It's not about hoarding, withholding, or living in fear. It's about choosing to meet your needs in more aligned and inventive ways. You, Dan, T, have to deprive yourself. Just learn to get your joy without paying full price for it. In fact, many people report feeling more abundance when practicing frugality. Why? Because they're using their money and time in ways that reflect their values, not just their impulses. Living well on less is a skill. Like any skill, creative frugality improves with practice. You'll get better at spotting opportunities, finding deals, and solving challenges in non-monetary ways. Over time, your lifestyle becomes leaner, lighter, and less dependent on consumerism. And that's not just good for your wallet, it's good for your freedom. Final thought, redefining rich. Segment 4 challenges us to rethink what it means to live richly. Maybe it's not about how much you spend, but about how well you spend, how much joy, usefulness, and meaning you get from every dollar. When you embrace creative frugality, you stop chasing more. Instead, you start celebrating enough. And in that shift, you discover something powerful. You don't need to spend more to live more. You just need to live more intentionally.